which teams actually move on players to NCAA D1 programs and D3 programs in the CCHL, and what does it look like overall when it comes to advancing players as a league. So number one on our list here. What's going on, guys? This is Braden from 𝗵𝘂𝗶𝗴 Hockey Advising here, and today we're continuing the series where we're ranking leagues in terms of advancing players to NCAA D1 and D3 in this case. So right now we're going to be looking at the CCHL, which is on the hot seat. All right, so we've ranked quite a few leagues so far with regards to NCAA advancement. We looked at the NAHL, which conferences and teams are best. We looked at the NCDC, we looked at the BCHL, and now it's the CCHL's turn because it's another popular league when it comes to players wanting to play there to move on to NCAA hockey. So here we're going to rank not only for NCAA D1 but also for NCAA D3 because there's a significant advancement in both in the CCHL. And the results, honestly, I thought they were going to be a little bit higher than what they were, but we're going to dive into that in a sec, so don't read too much into that. But honestly, it surprised me a little bit when it comes to the current players playing NCAA hockey, so the advancement in the past 5 years. But nevertheless, there are some really good teams that advance players that you guys are going to see as we rank the different teams here. Without further ado, we're going to dive into it. But absolutely, I'm going to ask you guys to absolutely destroy that like button, always, because it's an AHA video. And if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another video moving forward. All right, let's dive right into the rankings of D1 and D3 advancements for the CCHL. All right, so number one on our list here. This probably comes as no surprise because they were a powerhouse in the past. Recently have dropped off a little bit, but they were a powerhouse, and you guys could probably guess it. And is number one Carleton Place Canadians in the CCHL with 19 NCAA D1 players currently playing NCAA D1 that advanced from Carleton Place. So pretty high numbers. Now, not nearly as high as like teams in the BC or teams in the NA like we've seen in the other videos, but still pretty good number for just one team in the CCHL. Again, like I said, they've dropped off a little bit. They're still a good program to go to, don't get me wrong, but back like maybe, time of filming this video in 2024, back like maybe 2-3 years ago, and I remember back when I played, they were an absolute powerhouse and they moved on so many players. But nevertheless, 19 is a great number. All right, so number two on our list here is the Ottawa Junior Senators. Great organization, and they moved on 14 players in the past 5 years or so to NCAA. So 14 are currently playing NCAA D1 hockey from the Ottawa Junior Senators. Now, again, with this program, they had a fantastic coach there. We know him really well, 𝗂𝗵𝗿𝗄𝗏. Big shout out to him if he's watching this video. But he was a fantastic coach coaching them the past season before this, and they actually won the championship. And before that couple years, they were really building a solid team. Now, since then, they're still good, but again, similar to CPC, they kind of dropped off a little bit just because change coaching staff, change of everything, but still a good program to go to. I definitely recommend it. All right, so number three on our list here is Cornwall with 10 NCAA D1 advancements in the past 4 or 5 years or so. This one surprised me a little bit because there was a period where they weren't that good. This past year, they've had a really good season, but there's a couple of years that they weren't so good. But sometimes, even the strength of the program, it doesn't always correlate to NCAA D1 advancements. Sometimes they have really good players on the team that just move on, even though the program hasn't won all that much. So really cool to see that on the list here. All right, now after the top three for NCAA D1 rankings, it kind of it's really, really close. I'm just going to name all the teams in order here, but it gets really close. So number 4, we have Brockville at 7 NCAA D1 advancements. Number 5, we have Kemptville at 6 NCAA D1 currently playing players. Number 6, we have Hawkesbury with 5. Number 7, we have Rockland with 4. Number 8, we have Pembroke with 3. 8B, if you will, we have Navan with 3 as well. If you look at 9 or like 10, no matter however you rank it, we have Nepean with 2. If you look at 10, we have Smith Falls with 1. Overall, this surprises me a little bit because teams like Smith Falls recently have been really, really strong programs. These guys, were, I think, ranked number 1 or close to number 1. Don't quote me on this one, but they were ranked really high this year. So maybe because this year they're ranked really high, as the years move forward, we're probably going to see them creep up on the list compared to other teams that might slump down a little bit. So it's going to be fun to see this trend. Now, the grand total for NCAA D1 advancements is 75. So again, in the past 4 or 5 years, 75 is a lot lower compared to the BCHL that was 405 and the NAHL that was, I think, 906 or something like that. Really, really different numbers, right? Now, again, a bit of a smaller league, so per capita, it's still, there's still that to consider, but 75 versus 405 versus 906, big difference. So you can see why a lot of players gravitate towards the BC and the NAHL. Now, that being said, if you're a really good player, it's possible to go NCAA D1. If you have a really good CCHL team that's offering you top line minutes and all that, that versus going to the BCHL where you're going to sit the bench, you're better to go where you're going to develop and get some exposure in a league like the CCHL versus sitting the bench and getting scratched in a really high league like the NA or the BC. That's my take, but most cases, more often than not, that's usually the right play to do. And because the CCHL does move on players NCAA D3, I think it's worth looking at the rankings here when it comes to those teams in terms of which ones really push players NCAA D3. Caveat to this, there's going to be different varying numbers and stuff, but overall, if you're playing on almost any CCHL team and you're doing quite well in that league, chances are you're going to find an NCAA D3 team. But it's just cool to look at the rankings to see which ones kind of push them a little bit more than others. But again, if you play on a good team, usually you tend to move on. So we look at Navan, there's 13 players currently playing NCAA D3 right now. They're ranked at number 1. Number 1B is Brockville with also 13 players. Number 2, we have 𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗴 with 11 players. Number 4, we have Rockland with 10 players. And number 5, we have Kemptville, or 4B if you will, we have Kemptville with 10 players as well. Moving on, we have Ottawa with 9. Then we have Cornwall with 9. Smith Falls with 6. Pembroke with 5. Nepean with 5. Carleton Place with 4, and then it drops off a bit. Renfrew with 1. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 with 1. And then, yes, that's pretty much it with a total of 105. So you can tell that, you know, the CCHL in the past 4 or 5 years with players currently playing NCAA D3, they move on quite a few guys NCAA D3. And if your goal is to play NCAA D1 hockey and you have a good team that's going to develop you, definitely go there for the CCHL. If you don't have better options elsewhere, you go to that team, you try your best, and if you have a great year and move on NCAA D1, great. If not, you have like a guaranteed chance to find a good NCAA D3 program if you're in that situation. And my friends, that is it for the video. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this. We dug into the data, we did the research, took us some time, but hopefully you guys have an idea, okay, which teams actually move on players to NCAA D1 programs and D3 programs in the CCHL, and what does it look like overall when it comes to advancing players as a league. So I think, again, solid league to go to for really good development and good exposure. Anytime there's that showcase at the beginning of the year in September or October or so, there's always a ton of scouts there. So I really like the CCHL. I'm biased because I'm from the Ottawa region, but honestly, really good league. There's some better leagues for sure that move on players more to NCAA hockey than the CCHL, but it's a great small league that has good caliber and has pretty good exposure. So I think overall, it's a great league. So all that said, hopefully you guys got some value out of this. If you haven't already and you like these videos, you like the data that we present to you guys, absolutely destroy that like button. It's free and it goes a long way. If you're new here and you like these videos, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another video moving forward. If you have any questions for us, questions for me, anything about hockey, anything whatsoever, drop a comment down below or send us a private email at info@𝗟𝗏𝗡𝑎dvising.com and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you on that next one.